Hey yo YouTube, what's good? It is your girl Dom and I'm back with another video. So in this video, bro, we got 15 lies you learned in school. Now we're not going to get into the, the nitpick. We're not going to nitpick how many lies we've been told in school, because that's just a whole video in itself. Because we know. Okay? Anyway, we're about to get into this video. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and let's go, bro.
We all have strong feelings about school. We either loved it or we hated it. But one thing is for sure, not everything the teachers taught us is true. What if I told you that we've discovered several unbelievable lies that have been told to you your entire life?
Let go of me! No.
From complete historical inaccuracies to the formation of diamonds, here are 15 lies you learned in school. Number 15. Christopher Columbus. First of all, Christopher Columbus and his men were definitely not the first non-natives to set foot in the Americas. The Vikings did so a long time before.
He didn't discover anything.
Him, and they actually had settlements in North America. And when Columbus arrived there, the local people did not think he was a godlike figure at all. Second of all, when Columbus arrived in what is the modern-day Bahamas, his men were so frustrated after the excruciatingly long trip. And because they thought Columbus was lying to them about India the entire time, they actually began a mutiny and put him in a cave.
My question is, if they was trying to find India, coming from Italy, I don't understand why the fuck they even got on a boat. What the fuck? I'm pretty sure you can. I don't understand. It's so dumb.
I will discover a shortcut to India and bring back some of the great wealth I find there.
He was later released, though, and
Dumb as
Columbus
hell.
actually died without ever knowing that he had just discovered 2 whole new continents, even if he did 3 more.
He didn't discover anything. Discovered 2 more continents. He
Trips
didn't
to the
discover
Americas.
shit.
He also never set foot in actual North America. He did nonetheless adventure himself in Central and South America. We don't exactly know when or where he was born. We think it was somewhere in the Republic of Genoa, but we can't know for sure. He also wasn't a very nice guy.
I said Italy or Spain, wherever the fuck it was from. It was from the same land that they was looking for.
He had many slaves,
That's
and he
my
would ship
point.
the natives back to Spain to be sold as slaves as well. He did this because he couldn't find many gems or gold in the New World, so he saw the people there as the next best thing. Not cool, Columbus.
Before we go on, like this video, smash
There was nothing cool about Columbus. He was an asshole.
the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're
That
sleeping.
motherfucker creepy as shit.
This is a share,
What the fuck?
and you don't need
I
any
hate
of
when they
these to
say
make
shit
money
like that.
from the stock
I'm never
market.
gonna do that.
And in fact, you can click here right.
I just hope you like and subscribe. I appreciate it.
Now, it's time for the star topic. If you scour the internet in search of theories about the Great Sphinx of Giza, you will find hundreds, if not thousands. So, which one is true? In school, they taught you that an ancient civilization built it using slaves as workers. But what if I told you this might not be true? Some scientists say that the Sphinx was built by aliens. Yeah,
People love to discredit what we've done. And by we, you know what I'm talking about. We don't need to discuss all that. Fucking aliens.
aliens. And apparently, they built it in their image.
It's always when say they don't understand how we could do something so amazing. It's always, oh, aliens must have did it. The fuck
Massive
up.
cover-up, and they changed its face so people wouldn't know that the aliens were actually here
Child
on
boo.
Earth. What do you think? Do you agree with these scientists and think
No.
the aliens built it? Comment down below with the hashtag StarTopic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. With that said, let's keep things moving. Number 14. Caligula made his horse a consul of the Roman Empire. Caligula was a renowned Roma emperor who is extremely known for his...
Did you learn about Caligula? 'Cause I sure the fuck didn't.
bizarre and unconventional ways. But the one story in particular that captivated historians today is the one about his beloved horse, Incitatus.
A new senator of Rome.
They made a movie out of it?
So much
They made a movie about it?
An ivory manger, a bejeweled collar, and even a house. I mean, that horse was better treated than most of us. But what made Incitatus world famous wasn't his riches and jewels. It was
No, animals in general are treated better than most of us.
the fact that he was appointed. Yeah, I said appointed. The horse was an official in Caligula's government. Now, I know what you must all be thinking. Caligula was crazy, right? But it's not that simple. Historians believe that Caligula appointed his horse only to insult and humiliate senators and other elites of the empire. The message was, you guys are so stupid, even my horse would do a better job at ruling Rome than you. Needless to say, it would be very ridiculing to have to share your seat at the Senate with a horse. But the truth is, we have no way of knowing if Caligula actually appointed the first equine official in history. It might all be simply rumors that were written down as historical fact.
My thing is, who gives a fuck?
It's decades after Caligula's death by a Roman historian that
Who
wasn't
cares?
around when the
Who finds this information important?
Animator. Immerse yourself in visual character.
Enough that's going to be in the
and
history
environment
books. Who
design
finds
to
this
get your
information
degree
so
from the
vital?
Los Angeles Film School.
Yet you find it
Follow in the
teaching
path of
to other
our
people in school.
award-winning alumni.
I don't
and
get
let
it.
your creativity run wild.
anecdote would have taken place. Number 13. Lincoln didn't believe African Americans should have the same rights as white people. Abraham Lincoln is believed to have been the first spokesman to fight for the equality of the African American people in the USA. But in fact, that is far from the truth. Lincoln even said it himself at a debate on September 18, 1853, that he was not and had never been for the social and political equality of the white and black races. He then continued to say that he opposed black people having the right to vote, to serve on juries, to hold office, and even to marry white people.
With firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right.
So, as you can see, Lincoln wasn't the progressive mind that we all seem to think. He thought that slavery was morally wrong, but he wasn't in any way okay with black people being normal citizens of the USA. He even went so far as to say that the only solution to the slavery issue was to free all slaves and literally send them back to Africa. Needless to say, a speech like that would come with mountains of criticism nowadays, and for good reason. Lincoln advocated colonialism and inherently believed that there was a superiority in the white race and inferiority in the black race, something that we know today not to be true at all. We are all different, but no group of people is better than any other. Number 12.
I was about to say something, but you know what? I'm not. What I will say, anybody is just as good as anybody. But we're the shit.
You can only taste certain things on certain parts of your
You
tongue.
know it.
You probably still remember the famous tongue map showing the different sections on your tongue that can taste different flavors. There's sweet at the tip of your tongue, salty and sour at the edges, and bitter at the very back. But guess what? That's not true. And not only is it not true, that theory was debunked a long time ago. It turns out we've all been misinterpreting the tongue map for over a century now. The scientist that created the map in the first place was merely suggesting that those areas contain more sensitivity to certain tastes. But he never said that those areas have the only sensitivity to those tastes. So,
I
by
mean,
his theory,
I never believed that anyway, because when I eat my food, I can taste it throughout my whole mouth. I mean, I taste what I smell. Like,
sweet flavor's gonna be more easily translated at the tip of your tongue, but the rest of your tongue can perceive sweet as well, and that goes for all the flavors also. But as we've discovered, even that version of the tongue map,
You could have your
Like,
own Amazon store,
it's common
making
sense.
thousands of dollars a
That
day,
was
and you
stupid.
didn't even have to manage it.
that was useless information
Fully
that
built
somebody
and
thought we
managed,
needed to know.
hands-free Amazon business. No
Like,
previous e-commerce experience
you
or
eat your food, you can
complicated
taste
technical
it.
skills
Like-
needed. No wasting time and money.
Wasting time and money.
correct. The truth
Exactly.
is, all different kinds of taste buds all over our tongues, and no area is more sensitive than any others. Talk about a century-old game of Chinese whispers. Number 11.
She wasn't cleaning her tongue right
Apple.
anyway. She was missing the whole
There are
middle.
few
You saw
stories
that?
in the history of science as iconic as the apple falling from a tree and triggering something of a eureka moment for Newton concerning the laws of gravity. But as it turns out, that never happened. It is, in fact, true, though, that Newton was indeed sitting under an apple tree when he started thinking about the problem of gravity. But the apple never fell on his head, like all the teachers in the world seem to sing in unison. And finally, it wasn't really the so-called eureka moment either, as it took Newton 2 decades to finally publish his theory of universal gravitation. And last but not least, everything points to the fact that Newton didn't come up with that theory at all. He simply plagiarized it from other scientists that have been working on it for far longer than him.
No shit.
Not only is the apple story a complete figment of the imagination, but also Newton's work isn't his own either.
Now, how many other times in history have someone of his persuasion taken the credit for something that wasn't theirs? Matter of fact, it's happening today on this little thing we like to call TikTok.
Talk about an enduring hoax. Many scientists had accused Newton during his lifetime of plagiarizing their work, to which he replied with a lot of smugness and sarcasm, making him a little bit of a con man, if you ask me. Number 10. Albert Einstein failed math in school and was a terrible student. It's almost impossible to believe that the most revered scientific genius in human history, the most brilliant mind of all times, was actually a lousy student. You guessed it, I'm talking about Albert Einstein. And it is true that in
Really?
school, he flunked math constantly.
Well, you know what I'm saying? You know what because he was them teachers, them tests is just standardized testing and all this shit. It's bullshit. People learn differently. The teacher probably wasn't a good teacher. I've had some terrible math teachers. One time I had a Russian math teacher who barely spoke English. I stopped going to that class. Like, come on now.
Some people go so far as to say that he was actually a little late in his speech and motor development, meaning he learned how to speak later than the other children. But his biographers have long denied that fact. What is indisputably true, though, is that he was never a very good student and he showed no academic ability. And for him to become the most famous physicist of all times, well, it takes a very special person.
Because
he
his
even dropped
school
out of
wasn't his
school.
thing. That's what they don't understand. School is not for everybody. People learn differently. Some people learn better outside of school. Some people learn hands-on. Some people learn visually. Some people learn vocally. Like, come on now. I think it's auditorially. I think that's the correct word for it. I don't know if I'm correct because we little, pride. Like, so dumb.
school at the age of 15. All of these facts, though, can be very easily explained if you've ever had the chance of sharing your class with an exceptionally gifted kid. They're usually extremely bored and sometimes
As hell.
lose their interest in academic
That was
matters
me
because they're
early
simply
on.
too advanced for their peers. And thinking back, that's probably what happened to little Albert. He was just bored to death. Number 9. Diamonds are made from ultra-pressurized coal. Contrary to what you have always heard about how diamonds are formed, the reality is that they do not come from pressurized coal. So, Superman lied to us. He would have never been able to create the shiny stones by crushing clumps of coal between his hands. So Lois Lane would have had to be satisfied with a coal ring. Not very glamorous, if you ask me. Maybe the misinformation comes from the fact that both diamonds and coal are made of carbon, but scientists say that the possibility of diamonds forming from pressurized coal is extremely low, if it's even possible at all. The truth is, it's very difficult to understand how they form because of the extreme depth inside the Earth where their formation occurs. We find them on the surface because they're ejected by volcanic eruptions from the center of the Earth. Who knew diamonds were so badass? Also, coal comes from plants.
I didn't know they was like the reason why you find diamonds is because of explosion. Like, I mean, not explosions. Well, yeah, volcanic explosions. Like, that's
Some
crazy.
diamonds are believed to be much older than the Earth's earliest plants started to even exist. Some diamonds have also been found in meteorites that fell on our planet, meaning that they also formed somewhere else than on Earth. Long story short, we don't know much about diamonds, but they sure are pretty. Number 8. Bees.
You know what's crazy? Paying all this money for something you don't even know what the fuck it is. That's why I just like, this shit got to me, because it was like, we don't even know what the fuck diamonds are, but people pay a lot of money for them.
Shouldn't be able to
Counterproductive
fly.
as fuck.
We're not entirely sure when the misconception started about bees defying every known law of aviation because they shouldn't be able to fly. The fact is, they can and do all the time. I mean, if a tiny little cute bee was breaking the laws of physics every time it decided to go for a fly, it would rip apart time and space irreparably. And considering the immense number of bees that are flying around every single day, well, you can do the math. The universe wouldn't exist, and the culprit would be the bees in your garden. I mean, the little workers that give us honey for our pancakes are not the destroyers of worlds. They're only insects going about their own business.
Shit, if it wasn't for bees, we really wouldn't have shit. That's what I'm saying. People keep fucking with the ecosystem like everything is on this planet for a fucking reason. Even those little annoying ass bugs, they're here for a reason. Leave them alone.
And their wings are perfectly equipped for taking them off ground. But bees do keep a secret, though. They don't fly like planes do. They fly in a completely different way than anything else. Bees move their little wings in a partial spin, which creates tiny hurricanes that keep them in the air. Cool, huh? Bees are starting to sound like superheroes now.
No, they just sound dope.
Thinking there's no way they should be able to fly.
Mini hurricanes, so that means they're just floating on mini hurricanes that they're making. That's dope as fuck. Bees dope as shit. Annoying as hell, but they dope.
Witches were burned at the stake. The witch hunt hysteria in Europe peaked between the 15th and the 18th centuries, and it killed some 50,000 people. It was the most prolific in modern-day Germany, Italy, Scotland, France, and Scandinavia. But contrary to what most people believe, the so-called witches were not killed by being burned at the stake. They instead were usually decapitated or hanged. And then the remains would be incinerated to protect people against post-mortem sorcery, meaning they were scared that the witches would somehow put a spell on their executioners after they were dead.
So they didn't burn them fully, they just decapitated them.
Apparently
and then...
people back then believed in all sorts of crazy things. So the icon...
Back then? Have you been around today? At all? Come on now. January 6th was not that far away. QAnon.
iconic image of the witches being burned alive is
Marjorie
simply
Taylor
not true.
Greene.
They were burned after being murdered. Funny fact, it was actually imposed by law to burn the bodies of suspected witches, and that law goes as far in history as the Holy Roman Empire. And because of it, church leaders and local government officials had to oversee the burning of the unfortunate people that had been accused of witchcraft. Also, another common misconception is that all people condemned for sorcery were women, but in reality, there were men too, and even children. But it remains a fact that the vast majority were nonetheless of the female gender. Number 6. The Great Wall of China is the only man-made structure that can be seen from space. Do you think the Great Wall of China is the only man-made structure that can be seen from space? Who better to ask than an astronaut? And
let me ask you this question. Who do you think cares?
They all say the same thing. It isn't true. And there's a very simple explanation. Although the Great Wall is 4,500 miles long, making it a very impressive and huge structure, it was made from materials found in the same area as it sits, making it very difficult to discern from such a big distance as a space shuttle. So, in other words, the Great Wall of China camouflages perfectly well with its surroundings. And so, that also debunks the other theory involving the wall and space, the one that says it's the only structure visible from the moon. If you can't see it from a shuttle, you definitely can't see it from the moon. But apparently, the controversy about it is still well alive and being discussed in China. They even have scientists specifically devoted to prove that, in fact, the Great Wall is visible from space. I guess that if it isn't true, they feel the Great Wall's not that great after all.
Again. Who cares?
Number 5. Raindrops are tear-shaped. We've all seen the cartoon raindrops having the iconic tear shape. Even in
the reason why they're tear-shaped is because when they're dropping from a faucet, that's how it looks. So that's the only people associated with water. How does water look when it's dropping? Nobody.
School books, they represent rain like that. But apparently, reality is far from that. They are not shaped like the classical raindrop drawing. Try to imagine what they could possibly.
At Augusta University,
rain comes in different sizes. It's water. It's water dropping from the sky. Who knows what shape it is?
Actually, because of the laws of physics and gravity, like surface tension and air resistance, most raindrops look more like the top half of a hamburger bun. So the next time you're walking under the rain, just picture in your head thousands or millions of tiny little hamburger buns dropping from the sky. Because that's closer to reality than what your teachers have been telling you all your life. Imagine how different children's drawings are going to be if we start teaching them the true shape of raindrops. And some other raindrops look like minuscule kidney beans when they're around 3 millimeters. The smallest ones are spherical, which means they're round. But the biggest ones, the ones that measure 4 millimeters and bigger, they actually look like a parachute. Makes sense since they're dropping from the sky, right? So there you have it.
So like
raindrops
it's water.
Come in many
but
shapes,
who cares though?
except
Like
for raindrop shape.
I wasn't taught that raindrops were tear-shaped in school. Some of these facts are. Are they facts?
Number 4. You can't start a sentence with a conjunction. You can never start a sentence with a conjunction. If you remember having this drilled into your head by your teachers during English lessons in elementary school, you're not alone. We can all still hear the teacher's voice saying it over and over again until it was so engraved in our...
Okay, maybe I have smoked too much weed since I've been in school. I don't remember this shit.
Brains, we would never forget it. Except many award-winning writers, journalists, copywriters, and even bloggers do it all the time. It's almost like they're rebelling against the rules of proper grammar. But in reality, they're not breaking any rules at all, since it's totally okay to start a sentence with and or but. And if you didn't notice, I did it in this video a couple of times already. So to understand why the teachers were so determined, let's first start by remembering what is a conjunction exactly. Well, it connects two thoughts or ideas, which seems fairly obvious. So logically, you wouldn't start a sentence by connecting two things, right? But you can, and if you want to, you should. Because we looked into it closely, and there is no rule anywhere that's...
Now I remember, I was just like, you know, honestly, fuck it. I was like, fuck is a conjunction? I feel so stupid right now, but like, this is... But then he said and but. I was like, oh, okay. So now, I'm going to be like, if anybody try to correct me on that shit, I'm going to be like, bro, check my video. Like,
it says we can't start a sentence with a conjunction, so have at it. Write an entire text starting only with conjunctions.
Man,
like and if your
I
teacher
will.
complains, tell them to watch this video.
Yeah, I'm not going to be texting my teacher. But yeah.
Number 3.
You know those people that like to correct
Deoxygenated
you.
blood is blue. We've all studied in school that blood that comes out of the heart is red and blood that goes back in is blue. And that is why our veins look blue under our skin.
No, I just
people with reading difficulties
was taught that,
and studying
you
always go
know,
together.
once the blood leaves our body, you know what I'm saying?
The teachers explained it by telling us that the blood that comes out of
It
our
could
heart
be
is
the
fully
veins are just
oxygenated,
blue.
meaning it has lots of oxygen from our lungs to feed every single little corner of our bodies. But the blood that comes back to the heart has been traveling all over, delivering oxygen to every organ, every muscle, every bone. So it's going back to the heart to pick up some more oxygen to quickly go back to the job. Therefore, the deoxygenated blood is blue due to the lack of oxygen. But apparently, folks, this is not true. All
Okay,
blood
what is it then?
red. The deoxygenated blood is darker and the oxygenated blood is brighter, but they are both fully red. The reason why we see our veins in a blue color is simply because of all the layers of skin and fat that are on top of our veins. So the light reflected appears
Okay, so question, when they doing surgeries and shit, why do some of the veins still look blue? Come on
to
now.
be blue when
Explain
in
that.
reality it isn't. It's a similar effect that happens when we see the sun in an orange or red color when in reality it's white. It's simply light reflecting and creating colors and, in a way, creating an illusion.
I don't know.
Number 2.
I don't know
Humans
about that
only
one, bro.
use 10% of their brains.
I never thought that was
The
true
life-form
anyway.
myth that we only use 10% of our brains is only that, a myth. Let me put it this way. The brain represents 3% of the body's weight and uses 20% of the body's energy. That means we're not using it slightly, we're using every single part of it all the time, even when we're sleeping. I mean,
That's what
the
I'm
human
saying.
brain
That
is
makes
one of the most
it. What sense does it make that you only use 10% of your brain? Like for real. Think about that. Think about that for a second. You only use 10% of your brain. So we some half-brained motherfuckers just walking around. Not even half-brained. Not even a quarter of 10%. Like, come on. Should have known that shit was
complex
cat.
things out there. It performs millions of mundane things like brushing your teeth, but it also composes concertos and solves incredibly difficult mathematical equations. Not only that, it also harbors all of the human emotions, memory, and self-awareness. It is constantly working non-stop.
Like,
Although
come
it
on
is
now.
true that most of how the brain works remains a complete mystery to us, it is categorically not true that
That's what I'm saying. Every time somebody don't understand something, they just make up some bull. Like,
We
bruh.
only use 10% of it. If you've ever seen an MRI, you can actually see every different hemisphere of the brain lighting up in front of your eyes. Depending
Like-
on what we are seeing or what we are feeling or recalling, we use different parts of our brain. And we need all of them to exist and survive. So if we only use 10% of it, we would simply be a completely different species, if we would even manage to stay alive.
That's what I'm saying. That's so
Number one.
dumb.
Bats are blind. Everyone thinks bats are blind because they're
I don't-
nocturnal creatures.
I don't believe that they're blind. I believe that they're light sensitive. That they don't really like the light. That's what I believe.
Extremely good hunters when it's completely dark outside.
Extremely good eyesight. Like they got
But
them
the truth
cat
is,
eyes.
they're not blind. So how can they see at night then? Well, think of bats like a sonar with wings, because that's pretty much what they are. They use echolocation to hunt instincts, and we all know how hard it is to locate a mosquito in the middle of the night. But bats
Man. That's what I'm saying. Who thought the bats were blind though?
can not only
Like, who
know
was the
where
first
they
person-
are, but snap them in
Who was
mid-air.
the first person to say that shit and we believed it? I don't understand. Just believe something somebody
As
say
fast
just
as
because they
lightning.
said it.
Echolocation works by using sound waves and echoes to determine where objects are in space. Bats send out sound waves from their mouth and nose, and when the wave hits an object or an unsuspected mosquito, it produces an echo. The echo bounces off the object, and when it returns to the bat's ears, they can figure out where exactly, with clean-cut precision, the object is. With this technique, bats can locate an object as small as a human hair in absolute darkness. But on top of that, bats
human
also
hair.
have a pair of very functional eyes, which they use when there's light outside.
That's what I'm
So
saying. Why would
basically,
they have
can
the
see
eyes?
in any-
You can clearly see the eyes are there. You can clearly see the eyes. Why would you? Who would think? Why would the eyes be there if they was fucking blind? Like, come on now. Seriously?
any situation possible. Imagine
People
if
be saying the
soldiers could
dumbest
do the same,
shit,
they would
man.
be invincible. I don't know about you, but I had no idea that teachers were so wrong in so many
I had no idea there was so much information that I didn't care about and didn't know about. But, you know, maybe I cared about it. Maybe that's why this video was here. Like, but I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one video. The fuck? What the fuck did I just say? I don't know. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video, bro. Peace.